Welcome back to Arsenal News TV, and today we're going to look at 4 things spotted from the Gunners' 3-0 victory over Sheffield United in the Premier League at Bramall Lane. So the first thing on the list is Granit Xhaka's new position. After over a year in the job, you would think it would be relatively easy to understand what Mikel Arteta is going for when the Arsenal team sheet is announced each week by now. Against Sheffield United, it seemed as though he was setting his side up in a 4-3-3 formation, with Bukayo Saka dropping to play at left back and Granit Xhaka, Dani Ceballos and Thomas Partey forming a trio in the middle of the park. And yet, as soon as the Gunners players set themselves for kickoff on the pitch, it became immediately clear that that was not going to be the case. Instead, the formation was to be the standard 4-2-3-1 formation that we have seen in recent weeks, with Granit Xhaka dropping into the back four to play on the left, with Bukayo Saka instead moving central to play number 10. While neither of these two things were totally unheard of, it was certainly a surprise to see the Swiss international reprise a role he had not played since the early days of Unai Emery's time in charge. As soon as the game began, it became pretty clear that Granit Xhaka was not going to emulate the aggressive overlapping runs of Kieran Tierney or even, to a degree, of Cedric Soares. Instead, he sat deep and tucked in alongside the central defensive pairing of Rob Holding and the returning Pablo Mari, with Callum Chambers freshly back from a knock that kept him out of last Thursday's draw with Slavia Prague, encouraged to bomb on and support the attack. This was borne out in the back four's average positions, with Granit Xhaka spending most of the game comfortably inside his own half in the inside left channel. It was still impressive to see the 28-year-old dropped back into an unfavoured position with minimal fuss, and the performance was singled out for praise by Mikel Arteta in his press conference after the match. It's a joy to work with him because you ask him to play as a centre-forward and his first reaction is Yeah, I'll do my best, said the Spaniard. I think today he had a really strong performance, and with Kieran probably out for the season, it gives us another option. With that Kieran Tierney bombshell being dropped in the presser, it is clear that the Gunners boss is exploring alternatives to make up for the Scots' absence in the side. Granit Xhaka at left back is now one of them, but has also looked forward to the away leg of the Europa League quarter-final against Slavia Prague on Thursday. They might be best advised to look elsewhere. The Swiss did do a fine job, but was helped by the fact that Sheffield United, by far the Premier League's lowest scorers, offered very little going forward at any stage in the match. Up against the Czech champions' prolific and pacey right winger, Abdallah Sima, throwing Granit Xhaka back into an unfamiliar position with unfamiliar members of what will likely be a changed back line, will likely have a far less positive outcome. The 28-year-old has been good for much of the season in midfield, and despite proof that he is willing to sacrifice his own comfort on the pitch for the team, it's probably best that he stays in his preferred position. So the next thing on the list is Arsenal break clean sheet spell. Despite the makeshift back four of which Granit Xhaka was a part, Arsenal were able to end a terrible run that has stretched back all the way to January. Across 3 different goalkeepers and 9 different defenders, the Gunners had gone 14 matches without a clean sheet in all competitions before finally managing to keep one against Sheffield United. Along the way, individual errors have often played a role in ensuring that run extended for far longer than it needed to be. It will no doubt have been reassuring to manage a shutout despite the admittedly blunt quality of the opposition. Speaking after the game, Mikel Arteta admitted that breaking the hoodoo was something his side had required in order to make it to a perfect trip up West Yorkshire. I think we had a really strong performance, he said. Clean sheet which was needed after a long run without it. They were very efficient, intelligent and composed with the ball, which I'm really pleased with. We showed great cohesion, understanding, and it was the right attitude, so I'm very happy. It's curious how Arsenal's defensive record has been able to go from arguably their only strength in the months of November and December to by far their biggest weakness in February and March. As per their expected goals conceded to goals conceded differential before Christmas, it stands at minus 6.4, meaning they let in 6.4 less goals than they should have, while the same stat after the festive period shows a record of plus 4.7. Having halted the side for now, Mikel Arteta will be able to focus on building his attack again before the trip to Prague on Thursday, confident in the fact that his defenders are capable of keeping clean sheets once again. So the next thing on the list is Thomas Partey comes to the party. Watching Thomas Partey's numerous false starts to his Arsenal career as he battles against injury this season, it has been agonising at times for Gunners fans. From a totally selfish point of view though, not being able to make the inevitable Thomas Partey comes to the party each time he plays well has been immensely frustrating to endure. The Ghanaian has not been at his best since the return from the international break. He was poor against Liverpool, although to be fair, so was the whole team, and in the first leg against Slavia Prague, his wastefulness in possession was disappointing to see from a man who clearly has such talent with the ball. Against Sheffield United though, he was back to the very best that we saw from him in games against Manchester United and Wolves earlier in the season. Thomas Partey swaggered around the pitch, controlling the tempo of the match as the Blades midfielder struggled to even lay a glove on him. Early in the game, his quick balls over the top to Bukayo Saka and Nicolas Pepe helped create the Gunners' best chances, while his speedy play was equally crucial in the build-up up to finally breaking the deadlock for Alexandra's first goal. The former Atletico man saved his very best moment of the match for the Frenchman's second though, ghosting away from Ben Osborne just next to the centre circle before sliding a defence-splitting pass through to Alexandre Lacazette, who finished applied a cool finish. As he finally starts to get minutes on the pitch, it is clear that he is also emerging as one of Arsenal's leaders on the pitch too, and could be seen late in the game encouraging Granit Xhaka to switch the ball forward as quickly as possible as soon as the opportunity presented itself. The performance was not exactly perfect, and there was a moment in the first half where the Ghanaian found himself caught in possession in front of the back four, where a slightly more clinical striker than David Goldrick might have been able to force more than just a corner from the situation. But all in all, it was a positive night for Thomas Partey, who is coming into his own just at the time the Gunners need him most. So the final thing on the list is Gabriel Martinelli makes his case. Within seconds of coming on against Slavia Prague last Thursday, Gabriel Martinelli immediately raised questions as to why he hadn't been chosen to start the match. The Brazilian's directness and unwavering desire to drive the ball towards goal as quickly as possible brought the urgency to the game that Arsenal had lacked in the 73 minutes prior to his arrival. Against Sheffield United, he was given the goal from the off and again went about making the decision not to start him in the far more important of the two matches, all the more baffling. In the first half alone, the 19-year-old had 3 separate occasions where, with his willingness to drive the ball into the box and take shots on the 4 saves from Aaron Ramsdale, and it felt like a matter of time before he got his goal. He would have to wait to the second period to get it, when demonstration of the poacher's instinct that could see his future ending up in the number 9 role saw him bounce on the rebound from Nicolas Pepe's low drive. Interestingly enough though, just before that strike, Mikel Arteta could be heard shouting towards Gabriel Martinelli and gesturing that he should start to begin his runs wide on the pitch before drifting inward once the team got into the final third. With many of his efforts in the first half, the Brazilian had chosen to go outside of the fullback rather than cutting in, and it was a decision to drift more centrally that made all the difference for his goal. With Mikel Arteta clearly so in tune with his young winger's obvious talents, it then begs the question, why isn't he playing him more often? Gabriel Martinelli had played just 75 minutes in the Premier League in 2021 before the trip to Bramall Lane, despite the continuously underwhelming displays of those picked in front of him. Speaking after the match, the Gunners boss suggested that the long-term considerations were the cause of the course of action he had chosen to take with the 19-year-old. "I'm asking you to be patient because we have a lot of players at 19 and 20 years old," he said. "When you compare that with a lot of Premier League clubs at the top end, it's not common. Gabby's having the right path, the right development, he's got an incredible attitude and talent and has got all the future in front of him. What we have to do is manage that, try to give him the right amount of minutes, the right games for him to develop, to continue to get better. But as much as long-term thinking when it comes to a young player is important, Mikel Arteta will be all too aware that his short-term concern is progressing to the semi-finals of the Europa League this coming Thursday. "You're putting pressure on me now," he laughed when quizzed on the likelihood of Gabriel Martinelli starting the second leg of the quarter-final in Prague. Injuries may force his hand anyway, with Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Emil Smith-Rowe and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang all potentially doubtful going into the game. But if he wants to stand as good as an opportunity as possible of progressing into the latter stages of a competition that is crucial for ensuring Arsenal play European football next season, then starting the Brazilian is surely a must-come Thursday night. So these are 4 things spotted in Arsenal's 3-0 victory over Sheffield United. But other than that, guys, remain blessed. Stay tuned for the next video and peace.